Let's go, birds. What's going on, man? Hey, I was in a bit of a hiatus. I know I haven't posted in like a week. I'm trying to get used to this sort of thing. I'm terrible in front of the camera. I gotta be a little more natural. You know what I'm saying? uh, I don't know what to say anymore. I really don't. Yeah, I got you. I got you. I'm gonna be uh I'm gonna be getting into Philly's live stream going on later. He's got a live call in. I'm gonna be in on that definitely. But where where do we begin? Where Eagles fans, where do we begin? Uh, This is crazy, man. I'll be on. I'm not going to be on one. Philly the podcast is doing a live call, and I'm gonna try and talk to Joe for a little bit. I'm not big enough to be featured on a live stream yet. Obviously, I only got eight subscribe. I only got eight subscribers. But hey, but if you're new to the channel here, I gotta let y'all know. This is Lindy end zone for the touchdown. We're taking the lead for the Philadelphia Eagles one video at a time. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do that because obviously the Eagles can't, they can't win football games, and we go into we we come in to the Meadowlands after a bye. After a bye, this team had 2 weeks. You had 2 weeks to prepare for the same opponent that you just faced before the Cowboys game, and you do this. I don't know where to begin. First of all, I think one of the worst things I seen in that game was the fact that the Giants run a read option keeper where Daniel Jones takes it in for the touchdown. It was the same exact play as the first Giants game where Daniel Jones ran 80 plus yards. It was the same exact play, but flipped to the opposite side of the field. And the defense can't pick it up. Malik Jackson on that snap bit so hard. Malik Jackson bit on it. The linebackers couldn't get to Daniel Jones. I don't know what Rodney McLeod was doing. He was breaking tackle. He was just missing tackles. I just don't get it. No, I did see Malik also bite on that. Malik did bite. He was in the interior, but Josh did also bite on the outside. But yeah, I seen both of them bite on that. But it's just it was disgusting to see. I mean, oh, in a football game where the weather was unfavorable to the passing game. Now we've been in these situations before last year where we're playing in inclement weather and Doug decides to go to a run game that better benefits the offense due to the weather conditions. Carson still throws the ball 37 times. 37 times he still throws the football. I don't get it. He had a QBR of 38 yesterday. 38. He had a QBR of 38. Daniel Jones, of of all quarterbacks graded on Sunday, Daniel Jones was the highest graded. He had a QBR of 92, one higher than Tom Brady against the Carolina Panthers. Do you realize how bad that is? Oh my goodness. I don't. See, I'm at the point where I cannot continue to complain about this football team because game in and game out, Doug Peterson is calling the definition of insanity. Week after week, we see the same thing over and over again, and he's expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. I understand that Jalen Hurts was a wasted draft pick, but I feel bad for the kid at the same time to be brought into this dysfunctional organization with the way they're playing football right now. And I paid attention to Doug's press conference today. Oh my goodness. Oh man, I got to give it to the media people because they're giving this guy the questions that he deserves to answer. It's crazy, They're talking about the fact that I forget who it was that brought it up, but they talked about how the Saints utilize Taysom Hill and how almost every time we bring Jalen Hurts out there, it's just a run play. It's just a trick keeper. There's no creating. You're going to use a second round pick on a quarterback that you're not getting full use of in a football game. At least trick the defense a little bit more. Take Carson Wentz off of the field. You guys only done it twice before. The Eagles have done it twice before with Jalen Hurts throwing a pass. Why only twice? I don't get it. If you want to compare the Saints to our situation with the way we're using Jalen Hurts, if I'm not mistaken, Taysom Hill went undrafted. Taysom Hill went undrafted. Jalen Hurts is a second-round pick. You mean to tell me that Jalen does not have the skill set? You mean Jalen Hurts does not have the skill set to utilize himself in the offense? No, we're just going to run the same thing. We're going to run the same thing with Jalen Hurts, and it'll eventually work. We're going to eventually get positive yardage out of it. No, you're not. Because all Jalen Hurts does out there is fumble the ball. Whether it's Jason Kelce's fault or not, he's still fumbling. And I don't blame him either. He's probably falling into this trap of insanity. I think I'm going to go insane, honestly. Because, Eagles fans week in and week out, we're complaining about the same thing. We're complaining about the same thing. Why is it that Carson had to throw 37 times and we had only a total of 23 rushes? 23 rushes. Miles Sanders, I think, had 15 to 18 carries. Why? Why so little? You have a running back that leads the league in yards per carry, doing better than Dalvin Cook, of all people. Dalvin Cook is having a hell of a year for the Vikings. And I got to give it to Run It Back Philly. I watched his video earlier today. He did a great job. One of my favorite YouTubers of Eagles content. I got a bunch of favorites, honestly. I think I was in a live call with him and RB. I don't exactly remember. I don't think it was them as a group. I think it was Philly, Mike, and RB. Yeah, I love connecting with these guys, and that's why I tried making a YouTube channel. So maybe if I get some traction, I'd be able to join in on these live streams. I'd love to do that. I love talking about the Eagles, but obviously not right now. I think that's what I was thinking as well, Birds. But yeah, no, I can't remember. It was such a long time ago. And I think in the same press conference, Doug wanted to bring up the fact of they were asking him all these questions about third down and the fourth down scenarios. Well, he just brings up the fact that he just goes to analytics and film study. Now, shockingly, I'm not a 76ers fan, but I do follow them from a distance. Wasn't analytics part of the problem for the Sixers with Brett Brown? Wasn't that part of the problem with their rotations and the starting lineup with who they utilize? Wasn't that their problem? And Doug resorts to the same thing in football? You're going to let analytics dictate what you do in the moment, in the moments of a football game. You're going to let analytics decide what plays you call, who you have on the field. Really? Really? Just like I think it was Dave Zangaro who asked him how he analyzed his play calling through this first half of the season, through these first 10 weeks, not counting the bye. Doug thought his play calling was pretty good. I laughed out loud. I was actually at work and I was listening. The Eagles YouTube page had them. It was a live stream before they post the recording, and I was listening to the press conference live. And Doug Peterson actually thinks that his play calling is pretty good. Well, hate to tell you, Doug, but you're the only man on the island right now. Nobody else thinks your play calling is good because it's terrible. His situational football is absolute garbage. And I don't want to hear the excuse of, well, he just got over COVID and there could be neurological effects and everything. Because I heard somebody bring that up. Believe it or not, I heard somebody bring that up with the fact that he had COVID and there's neurological effects that are linked to COVID. We don't want to hear any of that. Doug's been having issues with play calling since 2018. Year after year, he's just been continuing to get worse. Do we not forget that he had the same issue in 2019? He had the same issue. We were looking at the same vanilla offense for the first 8 weeks. And it carried at least until week 12. It carried up until week 12. You got teams like the Seattle Seahawks calling us out last year. I'll never forget that. I think it was post game. Bobby Wagner for the Seahawks on that defense, calling us out, calling Doug Peterson out. Oh, we knew what they were doing. It's the same thing this year. It's the same thing. Goodness. We're struggling with the same thing. Doug used to abandon the run last year. He didn't utilize his running backs enough. Jordan Howard ends up going down with a grade 2 stinger in his shoulder. We don't see him for a majority of the season. He had a few good games in there. He had a quality game against his former team in the Bears. He had a quality game against the Packers. He had somewhat of a quality game against Buffalo until he went out. This is what this Giants game reminded me of. Remember last year when we faced the Buffalo Bills and it was inclement weather and we could barely pass the football, but Carson was selective with what he wanted to do with the football. He had a couple of intermediate, and he had maybe one kind of deep ball to Alshon Jeffrey that he dropped in the bucket. I was for part of the game. I thought that's how this was going to look. I thought that's what I was thinking. It was pretty windy. Yeah, it didn't necessarily rain. I mean, the field was a little bit slippery. I mean, we see Darius Slay trip and whatnot. And, Carson got his foot stepped on in the pocket after the snap. He fell down. I mean, you can tell it was windy by look at the officials. Look at the officials' uniforms when they throw a flag and they're debating over a call. You can see the wind. You can see the wind blowing off of their uniforms. And yet we still continue to throw the football. Why? The run game was working. It was working. Why does Doug Peterson not like Miles Sanders? Why does he not like Miles Sanders? If Miles was utilized the way he was supposed to, he could be our budget Christian McCaffrey. Miles Sanders could be our budget Christian McCaffrey if he was utilized the right way. You can see it on the field. He gets comparisons to Brian Westbrook, and I honestly think he looks like Christian McCaffrey a little bit, and Alvin Kamara. But since Doug Peterson likes to use analytics and everything, I got one for him. Your offense this year is 24th in points scored. 24th. Since he thinks his play calling is pretty good and that he's been in a rhythm, what rhythm? You're not calling the game to no barometer or whatever, or what the fuck it's called, a baritone barometer. Look, listen to me. So distraught. That instrument musicians use to go off of a beat. Pretty sure it's a baritone. Something like that. I can't remember the name. I used to play guitar a little more frequently years back. Now they just sit in my closet. There's no rhythm to his play calling anymore. There really isn't. Like I said, it's a definition of insanity. We're doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. When? When does he think it's going to change? It's not going to change. And why did it take you until 7 minutes left in the third quarter to roll your quarterback out of the pocket? Where he had two consecutive big-time plays, really. Good positive yardage. He only does it twice and then gets rid of it. He doesn't roll Carson out anymore. Kind of like the way the 49ers game went. Yeah, there were rollouts here and there for him, but it wasn't necessarily consistent enough because eventually that 49ers defense, what was left of it, caught up to what we were doing. We still ended up beating Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard. I think it was the Giants that Nick Mullins beat up on at one point early in the season. If he played the way he did against the Giants against us, we would have lost that game too. That's the problem with this football team. Not a single win on our schedule right now was convincing. None of them. None of the wins were convincing. None of the close losses were even convincing. We should have beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. We should have beat them. We should have beat that Steelers team. But no, they decided to pick our defense apart with a lot of quick throws and misdirection that we've been biting on the whole season. And we had the Ravens beat too. We also could have beat the Ravens. Now look what's happening to them. They just took a loss to the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. Ravens were the talk of the town in the beginning of the season to be AFC favorites. Now they're sitting with the same record as the Cleveland Browns, who we play this Sunday. Are we going to beat the Browns? Are we going to beat the Cleveland Browns? Seriously. No. No. I don't see it. I don't see a single win on the rest of the schedule, to be honest with you guys. I don't. The Cowboys have enough time to turn it around. Andy Dalton's going to be back under center. That team likes playing for him. They like playing for Andy Dalton. Check down Alex Smith came back. He had arguably one of his better games. Most pass attempts of his career. One of his higher yardage games. I mean, at the same time, you have to expect almost 400 yards if you're a decent quarterback throwing 55 times. He still completed 39 of his passes. And they only lost by 3 to the Detroit Lions, in which the Lions almost gave that game up. The Lions at one point were up 21-3. 21-3, the Lions were up at one point. And they almost gave that game away. So when we look at the rest of this NFC East, I don't see how we win the division. The Eagles are trending down while the rest of the division is trying to trend up. That's how I look at it. And it's a shame. I can't stand the thought of it. Doug Peterson, as the head coach after the bye, is 1-4. Games directly after a bye, Doug Peterson is 1-4. And the trend continues. Lack of preparation, especially against an opponent like the Giants, who you just played in previous weeks, who you only beat by a point because Evan Ingram dropped what could have been a touchdown pass, or to set them up in the red zone for a touchdown. Should have lost to the Cowboys. We should have lost to Ben DiNucci. I know in weeks past, I gave a prediction that for me, the Eagles would win a max of 7 games. I don't see 7 anymore. I don't see it. This is just I'm continuing to lose words over this because it's just we're making ourselves go insane at this point, thinking that this team is going to change, especially on the offensive side of the ball. If I read correctly, according to statistics, the defense is in the middle of the pack. Average. I think we're combined pass and run defense. I think our average is 14th. That's average. I think we're top 10 against the pass, and against the run, we're a little worse. First half against the Giants, we gave up over 100 yards rushing. Really? With this defensive line? And I can also put that on the linebackers too, because once running backs get to the second level, it seems that nobody can really tackle them or bring them to the ground. Because obviously our overpaid group of defensive line can't seem to plug holes up that the opposing offensive line is trying to create. Apparently they can't plug up holes. But the last thing I want to do in that matter is throw shade on guys like Brandon Graham. I can't do it. He's having a Pro Bowl caliber year. Brandon Graham at 32 years old. 32. Kind of reminds me of the productivity that we were getting in 2018 from Michael Bennett. Remember that? Michael Bennett was pretty good. He was pretty good. I liked him. I think we could have got one more year out of Bennett to help this defense. Because obviously the defensive line still needs help. Because they're just never consistent. They're not. They're not consistent. I got to give it to Fletcher Cox, though. He went out, looked like his shoulder popped out of its socket or something. The medical, the trainers are over there working their magic, popping back in, and he's back on the field. I gotta love that desire to, want to help your team win. He's a captain out there on that defensive line. They need him. I love it. I love seeing that kind of stuff. I don't love the way they're playing. They look overpaid. We are the highest paid defensive line collectively in football. Highest paid. You got guys like the Bosa's and the Aaron Donalds of the world. Their defensive lines, respectively, don't cost as much as ours, and yet their defensive lines are better. Now, I'm not one to say that I want to give up on guys like Derek Barnett. I think they have a coach on that staff that's finally getting to them. I like what Mac Burke is doing with the defensive line. He's really dialing in for guys like Barnett and Josh Sweat, working with them. Speaking of Josh Sweat, he's looking better than Davion Clowney. Clowney has disappeared for the Titans. and people wanted Clowney over a guy like Josh Sweat. I don't know. That D-line needs to be better. The D-line needs to be better. For as much as they're getting paid, yeah, they need to be better. The secondary. Avonte Maddox is not an outside corner. I'm sorry. Avonte Maddox is not an outside corner. Yeah, he could stay stride for stride with a receiver, but anytime he's lined up against a guy that's 6 feet or taller, he can't do anything with him. Doesn't matter how fast or slow that receiver is. As long as the quarterback can go over the top with his man, whoever Avonte is covering, it's a catch. It's a catch. Avonte Maddox is too short to be an outside corner. It's too short. And it's a shame because we should have a proper partner for Darius Slay. And Slay gave up 2 plays on his own. I can't be completely mad at him, you know. One of the only guys on that defense that's making a positive impact right now. The linebackers weren't very good either. There's some missed tackles in there, but that linebacking core is still better without Nathan Gary. One could argue that they would have been even worse if Gary was on the field. You know, I don't even think you can argue that. I think that's a fact. Yeah, I would definitely make that a fact. If Nathan Gary was out on the field, the linebacker core would have been even worse than how they played. Doug Peterson is hilarious. I wish I could say that there's a win somewhere in the remaining schedule. I wish I could. I wish I could say there's a win. I don't see one. I don't. Not when we got teams left like the Cleveland Browns. You can say what you want about them. They're still 6-3. I'm not sure what's going on with Baker Mayfield, whether he's going to start or not for the game. I think he was. I actually think he was. You know what? So I don't look stupid. I'm going to actually check that. I did not watch that game. On ESPN quick and look at the scores. Yeah, Baker did play. Okay. All right. They only managed to score 10 against the Houston Texans. That's not what I'm worried about. If we're talking our next opponent, that's what I'm not worried about. If Daniel Jones ran for as many yards as he did against us, what do you think Nick Chubb is going to do? What do you think Nick Chubb is going to do? He ran for 126 on 19 carries against the Texans. 100-yard game. 100-yard game. I guarantee if we gave Miles Sanders 4 more carries, 5 more carries, he would have had 100. Miles Sanders would have had a 100-yard game yesterday if he had at least 5 more carries. Close to it. With the way our defensive line has been doing against the run, Nick Chubb is going to have a field day. One of the best running backs in football is going to run over our defensive line and our linebackers. The Browns, Seattle, the Saints, Arizona Cardinals, who Kyler Murray just pulled off a miraculous Hail Mary to DeAndre Hopkins, who we could have traded for. How are you? Let's not boast about the aggressive mindset of Harry Roseman anymore. You could have gotten DeAndre Hopkins. Carson Wentz would finally have a number one option that's reliable. You know, I was about to make my thumbnail show the just show a picture of us being Super Bowl champions in Super Bowl 52. Just as a troll to the fact of Doug talking about that winning the Super Bowl and the culture that was brought that year, how well we did, was going to be the new norm. Well, if this is the norm that if this is the norm that he was talking about, either he was talking out his ass or he should be on the hot seat. And he should only be on the hot seat because of the fact that he will not give up play calling. I don't know how you can continue to trying to call the same game week in and week out. Just because the team you're playing is different doesn't mean you're going to get a different result. Defenses have figured you out already. I can't do it anymore. I just can't. I just continue to be at a loss for words. Like this is just absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, I sincerely feel bad for guys like Jalen Hurts, brought into what looks to be a dysfunctional organization right now with the way they're handling things, with the way this football team looks on the field. How do you think Jalen Hurts feels right now? He'd rather be on another team fighting for a starting quarterback job. That's the way it goes. That's how it is. I guarantee you he'd rather be fighting for a starting spot to lead one of these football teams. That's what he'd rather be doing. wonder how guys like Jalen Reagor feel. Sean Bradley, Davion Taylor, John Hightower. Quez Watkins was a healthy scratch yesterday with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. All this speed we talked about getting in the draft. And Quez Watkins is a healthy scratch. Where's the sense in this football team? Because I can't find any. Where is it? I have no idea. I have no idea where the sense in this football team is. I don't. Will Parks was in trade talks a few weeks ago before the deadline. He played 6% of snaps yesterday. You mean to tell me you couldn't alternate him out with Jalen Mills? And I don't think Jalen Mills played particularly poor. But one thing this team likes to focus on or likes to emphasize on is having depth. Wasn't that a reason why you brought Will Parks in the first place? Not only because he has veteran-esque experience, not only the fact that he's a Philly native, but you had to have liked him, otherwise you wouldn't have brought him in on a one-year deal. And yet you still decide to make him available in the trade, which obviously nobody was going to. Now, no, I actually lied. Who was it that was interested in Will Parks? I think it was the Vikings. Which makes sense. I mean, Will paired with Harrison Smith. I think that'd be better than him and Andrew Sendejo. How bad that experiment went last year for Philly. I don't want to jump off. I don't want to jump off of this this train. I don't. But I don't see us winning the division. Not with the way this team played, or lack thereof. They looked like they didn't want to play football yesterday. Miscommunications on the offensive line. Miles Sanders missing a block assignment. Boston Scott missing a block assignment. Miscommunication between him and Lane Johnson. Isaac Seumalo ends up not playing. Jason Peters had a good game. Jason Peters was okay for once. Yet once again, we decide to let Jordan Mailata sit on the bench. All the constant times that Howie Roseman wants to justify these signings of guys that he brings back, or, that he tries to justify the fact that he brought Jason Peters back and, we have to use him because we paid him X amount of dollars. Overpaid. He was overpaid. Because predictably, he's had injury issues again. What do you expect out of a 38-year-old offensive lineman? Howie Roseman needs to justify using Jalen Hurts. So Doug decides to put him in there with the same plays over and over again. I know. So my birds, I just Yeah, right? Yeah. Speaking of the Miami Dolphins, our game against the Dolphins reminded me exactly of that. This game was like losing to the Dolphins last year, but worse. A lot worse. One could argue the defense was just as bad in both games, but I think they were. I still think the defense was worse against the Dolphins than against the Giants this year, because the defense gave up 38 points to the Dolphins last year. 38. But the offense still scored 31. Carson was battling against a crappy defense. Carson was doing the same thing again, but only you go from one extreme to the other, where one game he's trying to play hero ball, and then the next he's completely conservative. Oh, all right. Yeah, see you later. Let's go, Birds. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, like I said, I'll be on. I'm going to be joining Philly's. I'm going to be joining his live stream. I want to get in a live call with him. But yeah, no. I think I needed to get. I think I needed to exert as many frustrations I can before I try and get on the live call with Philly. He commented on one of my earlier videos that I just made, and it no, I think yeah, it made my day that night. It was pretty damn cool to see another YouTuber that's as successful as he is to comment on a video of mine, just a random ass Eagles fan coming on YouTube and talking Eagles football, since I kind of talk about football with myself outside of the Discord server. But it was pretty damn cool for him to do that. But um, I can't think of anything else. I really can't. All I can say is I don't think we're going to win the division. This team is this team shows no desire to want to win football games. Doug Peterson shows no desire to want to change up play calling. If it's true to the fact that I heard once before that Press Taylor works with Rich Scangarello and does the scripted play, the first 15 scripted plays for this football team, where we see the creativity with using Jalen Reagor on that quick screen. I think it was on a 4th down, and we converted. Great play. That's one time. That was probably the only time where I commended Doug of that play call. And it just so happened to most likely be a scripted play. If that's the case, I'm not advocating whatsoever to give any sort of other promotion for Press Taylor, but for this offense to look the same as it did last year, with one of the differences being all these offensive minds added to the staff. Why can't any one of them be an offensive coordinator? I've been saying for about a month now that Rich Scangarello should be the offensive coordinator of this team. Promote the man. Make him offensive coordinator. I've heard him a couple of times. I've heard him a couple of times at press conferences. He seems to know how Carson Wentz works on the field. Frankly, I think he seems to know Carson better than Doug Peterson does. Because Doug is too stuck in his ways, calling the same shit over and over again. Sorry, YouTube. I didn't want to throw a curse in there, but it's pissing me off to no end. It's pissing me off. I've been wanting Rich Scangarello to be the offensive coordinator. He wasn't the greatest in Denver, but one important factor is having that connection with the quarterback, and I think Rich has it as far as calling plays. I think he has it, not to the level of Frank Reich. But at this point, anything can be better than Doug Peterson as a play caller. Anything. I think anything, honestly. But it's not going to happen. I don't know. We're not winning this division. We're not a team that deserves to be in the playoffs. We're not. With the way we're playing, we don't deserve to be in the playoffs. You really think Doug Peterson is going to bring his magic back? His playoff magic? December Doug? It's not a thing anymore. We want to talk about Carson regressing. Doug Peterson has been regressing as a play caller for the last 3 years because he doesn't think outside the box. He stays in the same box of plays that he runs all the time. Now you just got different people in the mix. That are falling into the same trap. I can't. I think that's enough for me. Honestly, I think that's enough for me. I just been rambling on in frustration for like 53 minutes now. It's crazy, but I'm excited to get on Philly podcasts live streams. Gonna be doing a call in and whatever. I'm probably gonna end up joining that. Just weeping in the same woes as the rest of the Eagles fans. Whoever joins up, just go from there. But I think I had to get a live stream in here. I've been on a hiatus for like a week. I actually guest spoke on a up and coming podcast called The Common Block. Want to go check that out? I think the video is up. I'm not sure if my guy Jordy posted it yet or not. But I guess spoke on The Common Block podcast. We got a lot of things in there. And it was I think it was a late mid-season assessment on how the Eagles were doing. This was during the bye. It was a few days ago, or some sort of thing. But check that out. I'm hoping to do more guest speaking in the future, wherever opportunities arise. I'd love to do it. I love talking to Eagles. It's live streams, videos, podcasts, whatever. Like I said, I'm trying to build my channel big enough to be able to collaborate with these guys and talk about our football team when they decide to play good. But I think that's going to do it for me. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that watched. It may not have been a large number, and I wasn't expecting. Obviously, I'm not expecting much early in my YouTube lifetime. But I appreciate for the views and got a couple of likes in there. I just love talking about the Eagles. Just not right now, but that's been it for me. Lindy end zone and the touchdown for the Philadelphia Eagles. We're taking the lead one video at a time. The Eagles can't do it right now, so it's up to us. And I'll catch y'all next time.